Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is ATACS episode 15. Thank you for the save, Mr. Flex.
You're welcome.
I had no idea which episode that we were on because it's been a while. I am your host, Paul from Atlanta, and joining me today at our virtual roundtable is my cat, Desiree, who is currently in my lap, but also Mr. Flex from Raleigh, North Carolina. How's it going, Flex?
I'm not a cat.
You're not a cat, but we can forgive that for now.
All right. I apologize for my lack of catness.
That's totally okay. We also have with us the glorious Miss Stephanie from Atlanta. How are you doing, Stephanie?
Good, and I wish I were about 30% cat.
So say we all. And Mr. Ryan, formerly billed from New York City, New York, now referred to himself as a citizen of Earth. Mr. Ryan, how are you?
Konnichiwa.
Excellent. We're going to leave it there. I'm sure you'll have plenty to talk about later. Hopefully in English, because that's the language this podcast is generally broadcast in. And finally, we have Mr. Nate from Lindell, North Carolina. Hello, Nate. How are you?
I'm good. I have no cat at the moment, but I can guarantee a cat appearance in the next hour or so.
Excellent. We can't wait to hear from Mr. Oliver. That is your cat's name, right?
Yes, that is one of them. Yeah.
Ha ha! I got it right.
Oliver's the name of the one you're likely to hear.
Yeah, that's the one you will hear. If you hear a cat, that is Oliver.
Yes. So we are adults. We are talking about cool stuff. And today we are going to talk about some video games. We're going to talk about some E3 stuff, and we're just going to see where this conversation takes us. But I guess the best place to start is with our fountain of knowledge, Mr. Flex. What's been going on in your video game world recently?
I know everything. Ask me anything about anything.
So, who was the original voice actor for Tidus in Final Fantasy X?
I have no idea.
Me neither. But anyway, go ahead.
I've been playing a lot of this really old game. Maybe you've heard of it, called Tennis.
Tennis is a very good game. It was officially founded in 1827, if my memory recalls correctly. And the greatest tennis player ever is Roger Federer.
All right.
Carry on.
That's all that needs to be said about tennis. But when I'm not playing tennis, I have been playing some video games. I have finished my time with Suikoden 2. I have not beaten Suikoden 2.
I was about to say that's a specific wording there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I very carefully chose that wording.
It's politically correct.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you let our international audience know a little bit more about what you mean by when you say you finished your time with?
Yeah, I'm not going to play it anymore. I basically, basically every time I was playing the game, I just got to the point where I wasn't enjoying playing it, and every time I was playing it, I felt like I wanted to play something else. And I think a lot of that is due to, really everything other than the story in that game just felt like either really boring or just kind of a hassle.
So, Suikoden 2, give us a genre and a system for that real quick.
That was a PS1 JRPG.
Okay.
And it's, for the most part, a very standard JRPG. The only real, quote-unquote, the only things that, quote-unquote, differentiate it are, one, there's a crap ton of characters you can recruit, and then two, they're, in combat, you have 6 party members, and you put them in 2 rows, a front row and a back row. But the front row, back row really makes almost no difference. The only difference is if your characters have a short range attack, you got to put them in the front row, and if they have a long range attack, you put them in the back row, and if they have a mid range attack, you can put them anywhere. That's really all the row stuff means.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's otherwise it's a very, very, very standard JRPG. You go to towns, you buy stuff, you go to a dungeon, you fight enemies, which predominantly boils down to mash auto attack, and you'll just kill everything because the game is extremely easy. You'll occasionally cast magic attacks, usually only in boss battles.
Sounds like my kind of game.
Yeah, you might like it. What put me off, so that stuff's not bad. The quote unquote standard JRPG stuff's not bad, and I think the story is decent. It's not amazing, but it's decent, especially for that era. It was probably pretty good. But then there's just there's a level of too much for lack of a better word, bullshit that you have to put up with. Primarily in the inventory management, like, which I talked about last time, is just terrible. And is like, it takes up way too much time. Like, it's just every time I would sit down to play, just be like, all right, this inventory stuff is just going to be a huge hassle.
Inventory management bad in a game? That never happens.
Yeah. And it also does the old JRPG thing of like just kind of not telling you where to go a lot. So
that's probably sorry, interrupt you for just 1 second, but like the not knowing where to go is definitely one of those pet peeves of mine, especially in old video games. Like, I don't want to walk around this world for an hour getting a bunch of random battles against guys that I'm killing in one hit just because I don't know where to go. So I totally get you there.
Oh my God, I'm going to hijack his hijacking really quick. So I'm sure like one of us will go on about it. But we were on a car trip and we have our Vita, and I have a running game of Final Fantasy VIII that I play only when we're on long car trips. And I don't remember where I was going the last time I was playing. And I spent like 2 hours going to every town I could. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm done with that game forever now.
All right. That one is even like, you know, you didn't play it for a while, so you had forgotten where to go. This is even like, if you're playing it, it just doesn't tell you where to go. It's not even a like you forget thing. It's like it just doesn't tell you.
So just a real quick question for you. I mean, would your enjoyment of the game be any better if you had like literally a GameFAQs walkthrough up on a second monitor the whole time that you're playing, or does that just kill the entire experience for you?
I mean, that's kind of a neutral thing. I started doing that once I got back, you know, because I played a lot of the game while we were on our Japan trip, but I played a good number of hours after I got back, and I did pull every time I didn't know where to go, I would pull up a guide. But then it's like, once I get to that point with the game, like that's when I start really losing interest, when I have to keep looking at a guide, because it just pulls me out of it. And even the not knowing where to go thing, or the not telling you where to go thing, is just one of the pieces of it. So it's like, that would help a lot if they would just be clear about where to go. So you wouldn't have to either use a guide or walk around and just talk to random people until you figured it out. Triggered the next scene, so to speak. But
if the rest of the game were grabbing you, you could get by that, right? Like,
exactly, yeah. If that was the exactly, yes, that's exactly it. Because if that was the only thing, I would deal with that. But it was more just all of the other stuff. Like, basically everything in between the good story dumps just kind of became a hassle. It's like the combat was too rote and too easy to be interesting. So going through dungeons, which the dungeons in that game are hilarious. It's like you go on a straight path, and then there's a split of two directions. One of them eventually leads to a dead end with a treasure chest, and then the other continues along the dungeon. And then you'd have like half a dozen of those splits per dungeon, and that's exactly how every single dungeon I played was designed. No variation. That was every
bizarre.
Yeah,
excellent.
It's like the most straightforward rote like JRPG combat and dungeon design. So like just slogging through all that was never really fun. It just felt kind of like busy work, so to speak.
Right. So if you had to guess, how far through the game have you gotten when you decided just to stop? Like, were you halfway, 2/3? I mean,
yeah.
Where were you?
My best guess is about 2/3 looking at walkthroughs.
Okay. I
think I played about 25-ish hours, give or take. So like I would have guessed I probably had another 10, 15 hours left.
So is it like a clean breakup, or do you think you're going to do that thing that most people do that won't admit to, where they watch all the cutscenes on YouTube and then pretend like they beat the game?
No, it's a clean. So I already went and read the story synopsis for the rest of the game. I'm not pretending I beat the game. I did not beat the game. But I went and read the story because that's the part I liked, and I got my fill, and I can say with 99% certainty I will never touch that game again.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like you probably got out of that what you wanted to get out of it. So
yeah, I did. And the other thing is, you actually don't get like the true endings unless you recruit all 108 characters in the game or something, which I was never going to do. So
right.
I actually got more/better story by just reading it than by playing it how I was going to play it.
Yeah, and that actually sounds totally fair because I mean, you know, seeing those true endings or whatever term you want to give them, when the games put really ridiculous conditions on those, I'm kind of with you where it's like, no, I'm never going to go and do these 97 hoops to just see one cutscene or one text ending, right?
Yeah, and that would have extended the game a long time to go recruit that many characters because they're not trivial to recruit. Like some of them, you do have to jump through hoops, like you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, between like the combat and dungeons being completely uninteresting, like basically from a gameplay standpoint, it was the most basic, uninteresting template you could have. And then the inventory management and like the lack of direction, like all of that stuff just kind of added up. The last thing I'll say about it is it would occasionally throw in these weird, like these alternate gameplay forms. One of them were these one-on-one duels, which were basically like a rock, paper, scissors minigame. And the other one were these tactical battles that were almost like Fire Emblem style. And both of those things are completely terrible.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so like the rock, paper, scissors are basically, it's your character and an enemy in a one-on-one fight. And they'll say something. And the thing they say corresponds to one of three actions. And those three actions go to the paper, rock, scissors thing. So you have to basically memorize what all the lines of dialogue, where they map to. So there's a lot of guesswork involved in that. And then the Fire Emblem style tactical battles, as far as I can, there's a, like, because you have like have a strategist in your group in the story, and there's an option you have to let them basically take the turn for you. It's like, leave it to Apple, that's her name. And I did that in every single battle and won.
Nice.
Oh,
so
wow.
They're incredibly simple and straightforward. Like I honestly, some of them, I don't know if you can lose, like, and then some of them are scripted to lose from a story sequence. So like you can't really lose them. They're completely pointless and they take forever to get through. They move so slow. Like if you've ever felt that Fire Emblem or other tactical games move slow, you should try Suikoden 2 because it'll make those things seem lightning fast.
All right, so I'm going to throw Suikoden 2 on my probably not going to play pile.
People love that game though. Like if you go look around, like that game is considered one of the best JRPGs ever.
Is it really?
About to say, like, you know, the reason that I'm sure Flex was playing it is because it is considered one of those classic PS1 era games. And, you know, part of that's probably, you know, those warts were a lot more forgivable in that mid-90s era when it was huge. For some of the things which I'm sure it did in an innovative way. I've played Suikoden 5, which that was pretty bland for me. But the party system was really interesting. Like what they did with the characters and combo attacks and things like that were some kind of fresh takes on the genre.
Yeah, I think and in its day it probably felt a lot better, but I don't know that this is one of the JRPGs that holds up well in a modern context.
Okay.
Or maybe it's just my personal preference. I don't know. But yeah, that's all I got about Suikoden 2, unless anyone else had any questions.
We can leave that to Apple.
Yep, we can leave that one to Apple. Exactly.
The only other thing I was going to talk about is a game Nate's also been playing, which is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Murder!
How do you guys feel about Murder and Islands and Murder Island?
Well, I don't really have...
Sounds like
islands?
Battle Royale.
Islands murdering people? Who's murdering who?
But the question is there a fancy dinner at the end if you win?
There might be some chicken. Yeah, I've been playing mostly with Nate, but I've done a few solo games as well, and that game's real goofy.
Yeah, it is.
But it's also pretty fun. They've done a really good job of just making this giant, just free-for-all murder simulator like be really entertaining, and they've done some really smart things to like make it move at a like snappy enough clip, like by forcing players to kind of like slowly constricting that circle to force players towards a central area over time. So games just don't drag on. Like there's maybe like a 5-10 minute period in the middle of some games where it feels like not a lot's happening, but for the most part, I think it does a pretty good job. And we've had some pretty fun encounters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Had one time where I like went prone as a car was driving straight to me, and then I shot the guy in the face out of the car, and then but the car kept going and ran over me.
Nice.
Wait, so what's the name of this?
PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Okay, I literally looked up Murder Island, which is a game of a different kind completely. And this game looks fun too, so never mind.
Yeah, the premise of the game is 100 people jump out of an airplane onto this island, and scattered around the island are a bunch of weapons and armor and backpacks and grenades and all sorts of stuff. And you literally fight until there's one person or one team left standing.
That's a reality show I would watch every night.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
that's basically what it is.
Yeah. My best results solo was number 4. I think as a team we also got around number 4, me and Nate.
we got a team number 4 as well.
Yeah. So we've had a few good runs, but no top place finish, at least not for me.
We'll get there.
Yeah, someday.
One day.
Yeah, that game's fun. I understand why it's like the internet streaming's current obsession.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, I don't really know a ton about the game. I just know that if you go to Twitch, man, there's a lot of people streaming that game.
Yeah, there are.
So
it's pretty fun.
That's a game about, like, building and releasing tension over it.
Right.
It's just like,
yeah.
Oh, is there somebody over there? You use a sound a lot.
Yeah.
So, like, you can hear gunshots from pretty far away. You can hear cars from really far away. So, like, if you're inside of a building, like, you'll hear doors and footsteps pretty clearly. So, like, it uses sound a lot to, like, let you know what's happening around you. And that builds a lot of tension because at least my experience is that everybody playing this game is a better shot than I am. So I just don't want to be around people.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And those shots happen fast too. Like that game goes from 0 to it's on in a half a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that game's fun and silly.
Yeah. When things pop off in that game, they pop off fast.
Yeah.
All right. So, Flex, did you want to talk about anything else, or is that pretty much everything in your video gaming territory recently?
I have been playing some other things, but I think I'm going to leave it at that for now.
Okay. So, Steph, other than the incredible Final Fantasy VIII that you've been playing in the car, what else has been going on in your gaming sphere?
So, been really busy, so I'm actually still on, like, the very last palace in Persona 5. I really thought I would be done, but I'm not. So
that's the story of a Persona game.
Yeah, it is.
But our host, Paul, went on a very long work trip, and I came with him. So I turned to the Vita, and I actually replayed Persona 4 Dancing All Night. So I redid all the story mode and
secret best Persona game.
It's really good.
That game is so good.
It's really good.
I could just listen to the soundtrack forever, and I play a lot of rhythm games, and I don't find I find them challenging in a good way, but none of them are like hard because I'm not trying to go pro on YouTube with 100%. Mm-hmm. But man, Persona 4 is like really challenging. Like,
when you get on that highest difficulty, it gets really hard.
Yeah, that's what I'm on, and I'm just, it's a struggle. And the story is honestly so goofy, but I don't care because it's the people that I love so much, and I could watch Nato and Kanji flirt with each other all day. But really, honestly, even though I got through that game again, and then played extra just for fun to unlock all the costumes, I must admit, my love has been Magikarp Jump.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
The internet. I saw a couple of screenshots of Pidgeotto taking away a Magikarp and people complaining, and I'm like, I'm not going to get into that. That looks really stupid. And then, like I said, we've been gone for so long. I downloaded a few app games. I played Crazy Taxi for a little while, and it actually is fun. But this Magikarp thing, I don't know. They did it perfect. I'm sucked in. I've been playing it straight for 2 weeks. I've had, I could go on about Magikarp Jump. I don't know why I love it, but I do.
So I've heard of Magikarp Jump. I recognize the name. I know nothing about this game. Okay? But I'm a huge Pokemon fan, so tell me, what is Magikarp Jump?
Oh man, so you are a boy/girl ? And you are catching Magikarp, and you're raising them to jump.
Okay. How do you raise them?
Sounds amazing.
It is.
Is this a clicker? Is this a
kind of in a way? So, your main screen is always going to be you in the pond, and like the bottom of the screen is Magikarp in the pond, and then the top half is like ground, and you can use diamonds and things that you collect in the game to get other Pokemon friends to show up, and you have a jump percentage number thing, a jump power, and you raise your jump power up. So when you face off with other Magikarp, they're AI, they're not other people, your Magikarp needs to jump higher than theirs. And the animations are so cute because they just smash back into the ground. Like, it's really, really brutal. And there's so many fun things. So, like, food pops up in the pond, and you have to click on the food, and that raises his jump power. You train him, and by training, you kind of make your Magikarp smash his face into a tree repeatedly. That makes him jump better somehow.
That's how I train every day.
That's how you play the tennis, right?
Every day. You just whack the tennis ball with your face, and then you get better.
Oh,
when I say I'm practicing tennis, I'm really out there in the woods, just,
smashing your face on the tree.
Doing my thing.
But it does this thing where your Magikarp has a level cap. So say I catch a Magikarp and his level cap is 15. I'm only going to be able to go so far in the league. And then I have to retire that Magikarp, get a new one that starts at level 1, and my trainer experience goes up. So now this Magikarp's highest level is 16 or 17, but there's a percentage where it's quicker to get them to higher levels. So it just feeds that addiction thing that you got.
That's going. Like a standard clicker mechanic is like reset your progression, but get this bonus as well.
I will say though, because I've gotten sucked into games like Game of War and stuff where I've spent money that I'd rather not admit to spending.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. So, but with this game, like, actually, it does a really good time. So there's coins and there's diamonds, and you can collect them in the game at a substantial rate to where you really don't have to spend money on this game. You'll need to put your phone down for 2 hours while you charge up how many training sessions you can have, but it's not like one of those you have to wait 36 hours kind of clicker games. So
right, okay.
I know, it's fun. And I'll probably get bored with it in a week, but I like it.
I just installed Magikarp Jump, so.
Fantastic! I love naming them all, too.
We'll see how that goes.
Yay. Okay, that's really all I have to talk about, though.
So, yeah, and, just to kind of tag on a little bit, so Nate, just so you know, with Magikarp Jump, the numbers get bigger.
I love it so much!
I mean, I'm a fan of the numbers.
So it's like a free version of Final Fantasy 15?
No, it's not.
No, this is better because it has Magikarps.
Oh my god. Wait, I do have one thing to tell you, and maybe it's a little spoilerish, but it's fine. So if you tap on your Magikarp a whole bunch while he's in the pond, he accidentally evolves into a Gyarados, and you have to retire him because it's not Gyarados jump. It's Magikarp jump.
That's great.
Yeah. So don't turn your fish into a god. Just have him jump around.
What is this Gyarados guy? We don't need him. Get him out of here.
Get him out of here.
King Carp for life.
All right, so I am ending the Magikarp Jump discussion, and I'm unilaterally moving on to Nate and saying, Mr. Nate, other than the Magikarp Jump, which is currently not installed on your phone yet, what else has been going on in your world?
I mean, I've been playing a fair amount of stuff. I don't need to go into detail about all of it. Still moving through Persona 5. Don't have much else to say about that. PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, like we already talked about. The other two games that I guess we can touch on are What Remains of Edith Finch, which I played over the past week in 2 sessions. It's a pretty short one. And Stellaris, which I've started a game in. Sci-fi paradox grand strategy game.
Yeah, so as someone who also started a game in Stellaris and then got terrified and hit Alt F4 immediately, If you would humor me a little bit, talk
Sure.
about Stellaris first.
Okay. That game is, if you know anything about the sort of Paradox brand of grand strategy 4X games, that is that in space. From what I can tell, there's a lot of intricate systems, a lot of management of different resources and territories and people and things, and then space politics is a big part of the game. So.
And we should probably just kind of let everyone know that when we say 4X, that's the explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. That's the sort of the
You got all the X's, Paul. That's good.
Listen. I really enjoy this particular genre of game, but Stellaris just kind of that was a little too much.
Yeah,
for me.
My understanding, I've wanted to for a long time, but I've not played a Paradox game, and people call them grand strategy game as opposed to 4Xs because I think they're fairly different, and and it sounds like, as you're alluding to, Paul, way more complicated than your normal 4X games.
It kind of hurt my brain more than a little bit.
I was going to ask too, while we're talking about definitions, how would you compare, like a Civ game to a grand strategy to a 4X, because those distinctions are somewhat lost on me. A lot of them are grid based, turn based. Like
it's a lot of just about complexity, I think.
Like all that stuff is. It seems like a lot of the elements are common to those games. So I just kind of wonder what distinguishes.
Yeah, like Civ is the traditional 4X, right?
Yeah, like Civ, along with like Master of Orion, like those were the games that like kind of defined what a 4X game is. So like Civ is kind of your
considered a 4X.
Yeah.
Okay. Civ is your poster child for 4X. Like Civ is 4X basically by definition.
Conquest, wonders, turn-based resources, all that stuff. Okay, gotcha.
Gandhi, nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Gandhi dropping nukes is 4X. So I guess like how does Stellaris differ from Civ in that regard, Nate?
It's basically and I haven't finished the game yet, so I'll probably be able to say a lot better after I actually finish a game. 200 hours, you can report that. So I've put a few hours into my space plant empire, and it's I would say the main difference is just like the level of complexity and how deep the systems go. So, in Civ, for example, you build a city and you construct buildings there, and they just kind of exist in your city. Well, I guess 6 actually changed that up a little bit, but and you produce units from that, and then you move them around the map and either take over stuff or whatever, and that's mostly it. Then there's a layer of diplomacy where you can trade things with other nations and do stuff like that. And that's sort of the main pillars of a Civ game, whereas Stellaris has all of that, and then it's like on top of that you've got for each settlement, in this case it's a planet because it's a space game, for each planet you've got like a grid of how your population is spread across this planet, and all the buildings you build, you have to be built in specific locations, and they give different bonuses, and some of them give adjacency bonuses, and so that's one layer deeper on that stuff. And then you have different leaders within your space civilization, so each planet has a governor, and each science ship you have has a scientist, and then you need scientists researching the 3 different tech trees, and they all have stats associated with them, and they level up over time. And then there's all sorts of political stuff you can do, which I've barely scratched the surface of, so I don't think I can probably talk to that super well, but you can enact edicts over your different planets that are just like temporary bonuses with a cost to improve food production or change the voting structure. So there's, a system for how your civilization votes. You could be a democracy that holds an election every 10 years, or you could be a dictatorship that doesn't have an election until somebody dies, or all of this stuff. I feel like I'm just kind of rambling about systems.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right when you say the main difference is just a level of complexity.
Yeah.
Like the games are just way longer with way more systems and just a whole lot more to consider.
Yeah.
Those things are hard to describe too.
They are. And the one thing that also I think this game does differently that I like a lot is some built-in storytelling elements. So almost like in something like an FTL, where you're just constantly being presented with these choices about what to do. It'll just pop up and be like, "Hey, we found this thing. What do you want to do?" It's like, I don't know, do something. Let's.
Yeah, and I mean, just like to me, that just, I mean, it almost sounds like it adds complexity, but it doesn't really add value, if that makes sense. You know, like, and that was my big problem with the game whenever I played it, was like, it was big, it was scary, and it was confusing. And yes, I could see how deep a lot of those systems kind of went, but you know, in the end, am I really gaining a lot there? Like, did they, like, was it too complex for its own good?
I think the people who really get into those do really like the complexity, because they'll have these games that they'll have one game that can stretch on for dozens or maybe even hundreds of hours, and they'll just kind of poke at it here and there over a long period of time, you know, weeks or months or whatever. And I think people really get into just the continuing saga or evolving narrative of whatever empire they're building, and it ends up just being this long, like, I guess think of it like a multi-season TV show compared to a movie or something, just like this long drama that plays out over a substantial period of time. And I think the people who get into them like really like digging into that. Whereas, like, you know, you can play a Civ game in like a dozen hours and like it's kind of a nice tight experience. But then like these, just because there's so much more involved, like there's a lot more room to like create that narrative. At least that's my understanding of it. I've wanted to play like a Europa Universalis game for a long time, but just haven't gotten around to it. But that's my understanding of it. Is that, are you enjoying what you're playing, Nate? And are you getting a sense of what like the appeal is?
I think Nate may actually have had some technical difficulties there.
We've lost Nate.
We've lost a Nate. So
Man down. Technical issue. We will resolve.
Maybe we'll come back to him if he figures it out.
Maybe Wendell has fallen.
Wendell has fallen to the enemy troops.
Did Gandhi nuke Wendell?
So I am going to call an audible real quick, based off of our technical difficulties, and I am going to say that we should take a break, and just for a couple of minutes. So we're going to go ahead and take a break now. And then after that, we're going to come back. We're going to get through the rest of what Nate has to talk about with Stellaris, and then we'll shoot through what Ryan and I have been playing, and then we'll move on to the big E3 news, which there is a lot of. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, members of the international and intergalactic audience, we are back, and technical issues have been resolved. There was a small problem, which we beat to death, and now that that's been beaten, Mr. Flex, you had a question for Mr. Nate about Stellaris, so would you do everyone a favor and just re-ask that question? And we'll see where that goes.
I asked Nate a question and he disappeared.
Yeah, and this time, hopefully your question does not crash the internet. So carry on.
Yeah, I was basically, because we were talking about how grand strategy games, aka Stellaris, are just way more complex than stuff like Civ and quote-unquote 4X games. So my twofold question was to Nate is, are you enjoying Stellaris, and are you getting the sense that is the appeal of those kind of games, is just the complexity?
I definitely think it is the appeal. Like, when you have that much systematic complexity, it just opens the doors for all kinds of crazy interactions. And yeah, I am enjoying it. I definitely want to see where my thing goes. So one of the things you can do in Stellaris, I'll touch on real quick, is create your own race of spacefaring peoples. Like they come with a bunch of pre-made ones, but I just decided to just jump in and make one. So I made a race of plant people.
All right.
And so you get to pick all these different traits and then see how those work out over time. So I'm curious I'm basically playing this. It's a storytelling exercise to see how my race of plant people do across the universe when they run up against much more probably well adapted and malicious alien races that I will encounter.
Yeah, I mean, and people seem to do really get into the storytelling aspect of those. Like Crusader Kings 2, people love, and it's purely for like the narrative threads that run through any given game.
Yeah, and I think that's just because there are so many hooks for you to snag onto. Like, if you care about political structures or social interactions of your people, or like how do two different alien races feel about each other. Like, one of the traits that I picked for my plant people is that they're super ugly. And that actually has like gameplay benefit.
Yeah, and that has an impact. Yeah,
that's
cool.
Funny.
Yeah, that's great.
But anyway,
so going on the exact opposite end of the spectrum from a grand strategy game. Nate, you said that you've been playing Edith Finch.
Yeah, I played and finished what remains of Edith Finch.
I have a question for you, Nate.
Okay.
What remains of Edith Finch?
It's literally her big toe. That's it. Just toenail.
Oh no!
Nothing else.
I think that there is a question or an answer to that question that I will not spoil.
Okay. My other big question is, I guess the question, like, if we use the pejorative term "walking simulator," like, do you think this game fits into that mold, and do you think it fits favorably? Like, would you compare it favorably to like other similar games? Assuming this is similar.
It is. I think that's a totally fair comparison, and I think this does that well and does a couple of things different that make it stand out a little bit, even though that space, it's not crowded. It's not like there are a million of these games, but there are definitely more than there ever have been before.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool. It does, if you don't know anything about it, you control a character exploring a house of her ancestors, and this is not a spoiler to say that all of her family suffers from some unexplained curse where everybody dies in sort of wacky, or not wacky because that makes it sound funny, but kind of just bizarre ways. And you're exploring this house and sort of finding their personal belongings, and then you get basically a short, almost like an individualized short story for each character that sort of explains their final days or moments.
The backgrounds are beautiful.
It's a really pretty game. It has a really great sense of atmosphere, and I like the storytelling structure where you're kind of popping in and out of these little short stories, and it uses like the transitions between present day when you're walking around the house and these sort of unreliable narratives about what actually happened to them that delve into the realm of magical realism and all these different ideas about, what can you actually believe about the history of this weird family and what actually happened. And it doesn't really present you with the answers to those things. It's very open-ended, I would say.
So I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing this is mostly about the story. There's probably not a lot of other mechanics. And and assuming that's correct, did you like the story?
Yeah, 100%. It's story, it's dialogue, it's got really good writing, good voice acting, and that is what the game is. There's no other really mechanics or collectibles or anything like that. And yeah, I did really enjoy it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's been one of the top games from this year that I haven't played but want to.
Yeah,
that's near the top of my list.
All right. So. Nate, did you have anything else to talk about with Edith Finch or any of the other stuff that's been going on in your world?
That's pretty much it for me.
All right, Mr. Ryan, Mr. Citizen of Earth, what has been going on in your earthly realm? Your mic is muted. Try again.
Hello.
Hello!
So, yeah. I guess a lot of stuff has been going on. It's been a while since I've been on an ATACS. Obviously, Nihon ni ite kairimashita. Went to Japan and came back.
Which is excellent because you went there and you did come back, and that was for a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah. Which I guess I won't spend too much time on that because I'm sure Flex talked about our trip. Actually, maybe I should get started with a couple games and kind of work in some of the Japan stuff with some of the things I've been up to lately. So in terms of games, not a lot to talk about right in terms of what I've finished or what I've completed, but some interesting stuff on the other end. So in terms of what I've played, I finished playing as much as I want to play of a game called Mini Metro, which was kind of interesting. It's simple. I played it on Steam. I think it was originally a phone game, and it kind of felt like a phone game. Kind of a fun, relaxing puzzle/simulator thing with some hardcore modes if you really want to dive into it. That is a game that I feel like would be better on a phone, though. Every time I played it, I was like, this is kind of relaxing. But I wish I was playing it on my phone.
And which system did you play it on, or did I just miss that?
Steam.
Okay.
Yeah. The other game I finished lately is Final Fantasy III, the DS version, which I played on the trip to Japan. Flex and I were sitting in Japan playing 3DS and Suikoden in Ueno Park. Or no, we didn't do it in Ueno. We played it on the Shinkansen and some other places, which was kind of funny. We were both playing old school JRPGs.
I mean, that's what you play in Japan, right?
Absolutely. So, quick question for you, Ron. For Final Fantasy, you said that you played the DS version, right?
Yeah, FF3.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 3, the DS version.
Yeah.
Did you end up switching over to the Onion Knight and leveling that up to level 99 and doing all the special stuff?
So in the DS version, I think you have to have Wi-Fi to access some of those features, which they pretty much shut down. So unless you have another person with a local copy of a DS, you physically cannot access those features. In the Steam versions, they basically just give you that content directly. So no, I didn't do that kind of bonus content stuff. It actually was not really an option for me. But yeah, overall, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised by the remake. Just looking at it from a distance, I thought it was going to be kind of a fluffed up, watered down, chibi art 3D remake. And I mean, there probably was a little bit of that. They characterized your Warriors of Light and things like that. But overall, it was surprisingly faithful to the original game. And that's a game I still actually found myself enjoying a lot. Obviously, there are some things with age, like the inflexible class system, that are frustrating in a modern context. But I still had a really good time with it, and I still really like some of the setting and high-level story beats. Some of the individual plot points are just kind of goofy anime, classic Japanese fantasy stuff. But yeah, I guess a couple big things to talk about, at least that I think are interesting, are one is I have started playing World of Warcraft again.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Mr. Ryan, I remember a time long ago, back when we were in college, where World of Warcraft was a game that you played a lot of. So
Is this where I bust out the "what year is it" meme?
Yep. No, you hush, Mr. Mr. Flex and Mr. Nate, because World of Warcraft has gotten a lot better with this most recent expansion. So, yes. So Ryan, I'd like to give you the floor. Just let us know what it is that you're doing and exactly how far in are you?
So yeah, the reason this is, I think, such a fun topic is, I basically haven't really touched WoW since Burning Crusade, and really the majority of my play was in vanilla. I guess I did. So when I reactivated my account, my subscription had been expired since 2009. And that was basically me touching it with a free trial on Wrath of the Lich King. So really, probably 07 or 08 was when I last really played WoW. And so it is really interesting to see how things have changed. And right now, so my brother and I, we haven't bought the expansion yet. We're just, I played levels 0 through 20 on a Goblin Warrior for free, and then we passed that point, so we went ahead and dropped the 15 to resubscribe, and we're playing. And in the 2 weeks we've been playing, I think we're at level 40. We've reached level 45-ish, so playing every other day about 3-ish hours per session. That's, by WoW standards, by old WoW standards, that seems super fast. We'll see how it holds up all the way up to 100 and 110. It's funny because my first impression of the game, people talk about how much things were changed, especially after Cataclysm. And at first I was surprised how much things had stayed the same. Durotar is still Durotar. The Crossroads is still there. Orgrimmar is still the same. A lot of the beginning quests are still the same. I was actually really surprised at how much content was not changed. But then, getting into it a little bit more, things die really quickly. I guess outside of the updated content, the dungeon matchmaking is really good now. I like the heirloom equipment system they've added. They've streamed so far. It does feel like they've streamlined leveling. They've upped their game on quests. They've redone dungeons and made that system a lot smarter.
If you don't mind, let me just jump in real quick, just to sort of give a little bit of context. So with World of Warcraft, it used to be, just in general, that it would take a very long time to reach the original level cap of 60, right? And and now you can go up to level a bajillion, whatever. But not only has Blizzard introduced things like heirloom items, like you're talking about, which are items that level with you to increase your stats and also increase your experience gain. Blizzard has also introduced a lot of, and I'm just going to use the word innovative because I think that's probably the best word, for finding groups for the dungeons in the game, which are generally 5-player dungeons, which actually do a great job of you sort of, grabbing and, grabbing some people and running into this dungeon, and you get a lot of experience. You level up very quickly, and that's something that was not there, in a very short time ago. So as Ryan's talking about this, just, sort of everyone kind of realize Blizzard's done a lot to both the base game and to where they've taken it. And
back in my day, you had to play for 800 hours to get to level 2.
And back in my day, you had to spam general chat for 2 hours to go to the Wailing Caverns. And it's they really have done a lot of stuff, which, WoW was known for innovating in that space when it first came out. And I just think it's good to point out that even as time has gone on, they're still continuing to innovate in a way that is actually kind of impressive when you look at it from the MMO space as a whole. So, sorry, Ryan, I'll give it back to you. I just wanted to give everyone a little bit of general sort of ideas of where this was and where it is now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and some of it's innovation, some of it's, I think, them just catching up with the times. When I played Guild Wars a couple years ago, I really liked it as opposed to WoW because everything was so snappy and they had some of those conveniences, and you could do a lot of content solo or duo without too much trouble. So, if WoW felt like old WoW, like old and slow WoW, which, I mean, to be fair, it was immersive, it was special, especially when it first came out, and I don't know if it was worth the hundreds of hours I put into it, but some of my big gaming memories definitely come from some of the big PvP throwdowns or some of the special things you could run into, because, everything was so challenging and paced. But at the same time, it was also extremely time consuming. So we'll see how far my brother and I go. Like, we don't tend to do a lot of social content. And, I know at the very top, I'm sure there's still a lot of grinding and raiding and stuff like that. I don't know if it's smooth, because they have to appease that group of people who wants to infinitely replay extremely tough raid content. But hopefully, if it continues at this pace, I can definitely see us hitting a character or two up to level 100 or 110, and maybe doing some top level dungeons. So we'll see how that goes. So, but I don't want to derail the conversation with WoW. I did want to bring up one other thing I've been doing, which ties into the Japan experience as well. So I'm guessing Flex probably mentioned this when he talked about Japan, but one of the things that's really cool, aside from the fact that the food is great and they have awesome trains and, they're really clean and friendly, their cities are really clean and friendly places, and, all this other great stuff about Japan, is they have these retro game stores that are really, really fun and cool and surprisingly not as crazy overpriced as one might expect.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, how much, if you don't mind sharing, how much was Mother 3?
I think it was like it was around 3,000 yen, which translates to like $27 US. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like
for a game that's considered that rare and that much of a holy grail, it's like, yeah, you just walk in the store, find it for sub $30.
Yeah, and that was one of the harder to find ones. I mean, you can find, like, especially if you go loose, like non-box, non-instruction manual copies, like you can find copies of Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3 Famicom, like, sitting around for like,
oh, those were everywhere.
$5. Yeah, those are like not rare at all. So
yeah, if you want a Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest game, you can find copies of any of them.
It just blew my mind because a lot of things that are either unique and exclusive or just kind of interesting from like a historic perspective, whether it's Famicom Wars or, the first Fire Emblem, those games, you can go into these stores and they'll just all be sitting there like, and without a box, you can pick them up for like $8 or $9. So that said, I have been, because some of these games are very playable without being able to read Japanese. And because I can read a little bit of Japanese, I have been, exploring this avenue as a learning tool, in terms of possibly picking up some old Famicom, maybe Super Famicom games, like things that are easy to play, like, Mario, Zelda, some action RPGs that aren't dialogue heavy, maybe an RPG or two that's on the easier side, like Mother 3, for example. And it's a bit of a rabbit hole. Like, it's really exciting to be able to pick up some of these games for only $5 or $10 a pop. But then the rabbit hole comes into things like, which hardware do you choose to play them on? Do you get like a retro duo, which people complain about? Or do you, try to find original hardware, which can be very expensive and flaky, like, and then there's the whole Japanese virtual console angle, which I'd be very interested in doing that, but unfortunately it's the virtual console for one thing, just enough said there. And it's also region locked. So, your American 3DS and Wii U just can't play some of those exclusive games. So you really are truly locked out of those without buying some original hardware. So it's something I've been looking into and maybe have already dropped a little bit of money on. We'll see how.
This is the beginning of the end, Ryan.
How far that goes. If I have to draw a line, I may find myself with a small collection of interesting titles.
All right, and I think that you should just buy all the things. It's totally fine. You don't actually read Japanese. Just do it.
Next time I come see you, you better have like a giant wall full of like Famicoms and Super Famicoms and cartridges and.
Well, and again, I will, I'll just reiterate. So, for example, if you wanted to play, let's say, Secret of Mana 3, which was never ever released in any format other than Japanese Super Famicom, and it's an action RPG, so it's mostly action. You can get that for like $10 on eBay. So luckily, eBay is maybe not that much more expensive than these Super Potatoes, but and then you can buy a Retro Duo, which people have complaints about, but it still will play Super Famicom games for $40. So, with that in that kind of context, like, there's this whole library of these unique games, which is kind of exciting to think about, especially for someone like me who's just, who's been studying Japanese for about a year. So it's a little bit more accessible for me as well. Anywho, enough said. I'm sure I will be updating with how far into that rabbit hole I go.
And that is something that I definitely look forward to, because that is a decently deep rabbit hole. But I guess moving on, just kind of the last person to talk about is little old me. So
what you been playing, Paul?
There's only been one thing that I've been playing, and I'm gonna be completely honest with everyone here on the panel and with everyone in our international and intergalactic audience. So we didn't take a ton with us whenever we went to on our trip for 2 weeks to the Washington, D.C. region. So I've just pretty much played nothing but Final Fantasy 15 for the last 2 weeks. And I can safely say in a million different ways that I am so far down that rabbit hole that I caught the second largest fish in the game last night. And when I did, my fishing line only had 17 durability left out of 2,000, just to let everyone know. And there's only one fish left to catch, and I have the greatest rod in the game to go catch him with. And that just sort of lets everyone know how far down the Final Fantasy 15 hole that I have fallen.
But Paul,
so I have a question, Paul, because I also did the fishing side quests. I think maybe all the way to the end. Is the second largest the one where Gladio jumps in to yank the fish out?
Yeah, so that was the devil of something I don't remember down at the outpost of the Golden Key. That's the second largest, and that gets you the best fishing rod in the game. But
now you're knocked
okay. And did all four of the companions jump in for the fish?
You are correct, and now the only thing that's left for me to conquer is the Liege of the Lake up in the Vesper Pool. And once I catch that fish, I will have caught the hardest fish in the entire game.
The real question here is, how high can the fish jump?
I believe that every fish in the game jumps exactly 1 meter out of the water.
Magikarp wins.
I know a fish that can jump higher.
Right now is 1.25 million.
So I mean, like, really, in terms of like what I've been playing recently, it's been nothing but that. For anyone, and I don't think this is very spoilerish. There's 15 chapters in Final Fantasy 15. I don't actually know. But I've been told by staff who has beaten the game that once I'm on chapter 8, don't get on the boat to go to somewhere else, because that's when you're railroaded.
So when the plot train leaves the station, baby.
Right. So I have been avoiding the plot train, and I've been doing every single possible side quest and hunt. And there's no more question marks on my map. I still have plenty of hunts to do. That's been the thing that I've been sort of avoiding, kind of. But yeah, I mean, I am still really enjoying what I've been playing of that game. My version of the Regalia has several cactuars on it and some great, wonderful sorts of paint jobs. Argyle design, and if anyone ever used Windows 3.11, you'll know that Argyle is the greatest wallpaper. But yeah, that's really all. I mean, that's really it. Like I played some Final Fantasy Theatrhythm for about 10 hot minutes in the last 2 weeks. But other than that, that's really it. I've not been doing a whole lot other than Final Fantasy 15, and I am at about 40-ish hours in. So I'm probably got about another maybe 15 or 20 hours before I'm done with that game. So at my rate that I've been playing, I'll probably be done by the next time that we do ATACS.
Well, I don't know. What I think you should just clear out the map of everything that's on there, right?
Right.
And then go catch that final fish as your final boss.
Yep.
And then turn off the game.
And then that's it. Yeah.
And then you'll have played the better version of
that. No.
There's actually
I'm with Nate on this one.
Unfortunately.
Oh, we can move on. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Quit while you're ahead, Paul. Quit while you're ahead.
So, in order to not re-litigate the Final Fantasy rankings that we did just a bajillion days ago by now, I think that I'm going to use host advantage to unilaterally move us into our second break. And after that, we will come back and we will have our news section, which is mostly going to be
AKA our E3 section.
Our E3 section, as Mr. Flex just spoiled this whole section for you all.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so anyway, we're going to take a quick break. Spoilers. We're going to take a quick break, and then after that, after Discord finishes going crazy in the chat, we're going to come back, talk about E3, and then we're going to call it a successful episode. So we will see you guys right after the break, where we will be talking about the E3 news. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and now we are here to talk about the news. And if you didn't know, we had the recent E3, which I'm going to have to refer to someone else.
The Electronic Entertainment Expo.
And you know what? I didn't even have to throw it to Flex. He just knew what I was going to do. Thank you.
I read your mind, Paul.
Everything, remember?
Thank you for the telepathic connection. So, honestly, guys, we're not going to cover every single thing.
We're going to cover all. We're here now to talk about all five.
You know what? No, Mr. Flex, I'm just going to say my dinner is done in 40 minutes, and I am not going to delay that. But we're going to cover the things that just, us here on the panel thinks is the sort of the most significant pieces of E3. And we'd had some stuff typed out, and this is in no particular order at all. But kind of the first thing I think that we want to talk about is probably going to have to be Kingdom Hearts 3. Not that it is the most significant news out of E3, just again, this is a general list. Man, there's been a lot of Kingdom Hearts games, and they've been coming out in rapid succession. I've played none of them. I know nothing about them. I read a plot summary once. I was very confused and said, I'm never playing that again.
I think there's one person on this panel who has played a Kingdom Hearts game that is responsible for this.
And who is that?
Mm-hmm.
So,
wait, you guys haven't played Kingdom Hearts?
Well,
I played 4 hours of the first game and didn't like it and have never touched one since.
Wow.
I played the first one. I did like it, but I don't think that franchise has been worth following with
so
delays and confusion and plot twists and.
So I'll be honest. I played the first one. I played the second one. Really fun. Really great games. I even have my notes. Looks great. For Kingdom Hearts 3, looks great. I don't think it's ever going to exist in real life. And I don't understand the story anymore, so why do I want to play it? But I am still excited. I've watched multiple YouTube videos explaining the plot because I'm not going to get into 1x cubed times 2, enhanced edition. I'm not going to get into all those games.
2.5.
You didn't play Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days?
Memories, Link in Time. Okay, I did play the one that came out on Vita, and that was pretty fun.
Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue.
You're just making shit up, but that also sounds
title.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. It sounds like a serious title, but it's not. Oh my god, it's really real. You just liked it.
It's real.
I'm not making any of this up.
Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue. That is an actual game.
Say that 10 times fast.
I will not. I've had just enough scotch to know not to do that.
I can't explain to you why. I played the first two. There's something nostalgic because I liked the first one so much. I was still in high school when it came out. I don't know why I want to play the third one, but I really do.
Fair, this is, I guess, a numbered release, and that is significant.
Yes.
Because those games, I mean, the first one came out when 2002 or something,
3, give or take, somewhere in there.
Who knows?
It was before I graduated high school.
So, and I mean, it's a really cool concept, and I thought the first game, I mean, despite the clunkiness, like the concept carried it pretty far, and it was a cool game. It's just,
yes, 2002
I kind of lost what happened after that, and waiting for those games and the hype and community around them. You know, no offense to any listeners who are Kingdom Hearts diehards, but it's kind of obnoxious.
Yeah, I don't know. When Kingdom Hearts 3 does eventually exist in real life, I will probably play it at some point because, like you said, for some reason it being a numbered game, like, clicks a box in my head that goes, you have to play that. But I don't know why I want to play it. I don't know what the story is anymore. Everyone has, like, a doppelganger, and everyone has... It's a bad fan fiction kind of story now at this point. From everything
I was going to say, like, this whole thing is like a bad fan fiction by now.
Okay, so we don't have to talk about it anymore. I'm excited that it is eventually going to come out. It does look like it has fun gameplay mechanics. I just may not understand anything that's happening, but Goofy kind of looks like a badass in the trailer they showed at E3, so...
All right, well, so like, with Kingdom Hearts 3, like, I think that there are a lot of JRPG fans that are, like, legitimately interested in, like, where this goes. But there is another game that came out a while ago for the PlayStation 3, near the end of its life cycle. Ni no Kuni 2 has gotten some new information with its latest E3. As someone who played the original Ni no Kuni, I can only say that, man, that was a really fun game. I mean, yes, it had a couple of flaws. Like, it's not perfect, but
what flaws?
Well, so hold on. I'm actually going to I'm going to put Nate on the spot. Because I remember something that Flex told me that you said. It's sort of the Pokemon game that you always wanted, but it didn't control as well as you wanted it to.
Yeah, I don't remember if I said that or not.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. Sure. I don't remember that either. But.
I will say that was my game of the year it came out. So I like that game a lot.
So Ni no Kuni 1 was real good. There were some criticisms, but I don't think that
They're not credible. Don't worry about them.
I'm not going to go that far. I just will say that I certainly had my own issues with the control of the battle system. I did too.
I'm with you, Paul.
But
play your Tails game. Get good.
It's best argument. It's an auto win.
Yep. It's over.
But with Ni no Kuni 2, I am really interested into what happens narratively, and if they can fix the few sort of issues with the battle system from Ni no Kuni 1, I think that has a potential to be a very, very good game.
So from what I have seen, and then we can move on, it looks like the battle system is 100% different.
Right.
Well, that's positive news.
We'll see. I'm like you. I want that game for the world and the characters, and that's what I'm here for. If they want to redo the battle system, fine by me. Let's check it out.
Right. So
I don't know if it'll be worth playing though. I didn't see Drippy.
Yeah, there's no Drippy officially yet, which is a shame. But maybe he'll make a preview.
And for anyone who has no idea who Drippy or what Drippy is,
he's the best.
He's great.
He's the best. He's great. He is someone that will make you just continue playing the original game no matter what. Yeah. So the next thing that kind of came out was something really big. Man, all right, so hold on. I'm going to bogart in the next 45 seconds. Mario Odyssey. Wow. Yeah. You take your hat and you throw it on a T-Rex, and then you are the T-Rex. You take your hat.
That's just science.
That's just science. You take your hat, you throw it on a thing, and you become that thing. Man, Mario Odyssey, woo, that is really, really exciting. I have seen those trailers. I've seen what they posted, and man, that just, I'm not generally someone that buys into hype, but I'm pretty hyped about Mario Odyssey.
That game looks real good.
Yeah, it does.
We've got Mariachi Mario and T-Rex Mario, which that reveal was pretty great, by the way, where they showed the T-Rex, and everybody's like, "What is this Monster Hunter?" I was in like a chat stream, and people were like, "What is this? Like, is this Monster Hunter?" And then it shows the Mario hat.
Yeah,
and then he becomes that frog, and the frog gets a mustache.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I'm not going to make any sort of grand speculations. But I can say that, there have been a certain number of pieces of E3 that has actually, got me excited. You know what I mean? Just I'm a guy that's played video games for a long time. But, man, Mario Odyssey seems really exciting, and I can't wait to see what that game looks like.
Yeah, it's so great to see them getting, this is the first, really fully 3D Mario game since, Galaxy 2? And that was in 2010. So it's been a hot minute since they've made a big 3D Mario game. So it's really I know there was 3D Land and 3D World, but those were kind of half 3D. They had 8-way run and very linear level design. It's really great to see them go back to just the bigger 3D games, and what they've shown so far looks really, really great.
Right.
That's just exciting to see. And Nintendo often, when they make a big Mario game like this, that's often where they put, their A-teams on. So, if their A-team is behind this, there's so much potential for this thing.
Right. So, I am generally excited about that. We'll see what ends up happening with it. But there was something else that kind of... they just sort of made Twitter just go crazy. And by the way, Twitter is not real life, but it's fun to look at.
Wait, it's not?
It's not real life. That's something that no one really knows, but the true story is that the people who post on Twitter aren't real. It's okay.
You broke Flex.
You don't have to understand. You just have to know that whenever Nintendo
I don't know who
posted,
I am anymore.
It's fine. Whenever Nintendo posted its 30-second-ish, I don't know what you even want to call it, because it's
logo.
It's not a cinematic reveal. It's not an indie. It's totally a logo. Metroid Prime 4 is coming out for the Switch. And as someone who didn't play any of the Metroid Primes, I am going to just sort of bat this beach ball in the air and say, someone tell me why I should care about Metroid Prime 4.
It was hilarious watching that thing too, because slowly faded in the number 4, and then even more slowly faded in the words Metroid Prime. And like, I remember the reactions at the time, again, following like live feeds and streams and stuff. Like, people were like, what is this? But like, the second you hear the music playing, like,
yeah,
it's Metroid Prime music. So like, I immediately knew exactly what it was. And like, seeing people being very confused is like, really? Like, this is pretty clear what it is. Like, how many Nintendo games would have a 4 in them in the first place?
Right, and I kind of felt the same way as you did, because spoilers for any of our listeners. I watched Mr. Flex play through a lot of the Metroid Prime games, and I pretty much caught on that, hey, this is Metroid Prime 4, not because I played any of them, but because I know what that music means.
Yeah, like, if you played those games, that music is very obvious. But yeah, like, it's a big deal solely because there hasn't been a Metroid game in like, that's straight up it. Like, they didn't show, all they showed was a logo. So there's really nothing, like, that game could come out and be terrible for all we know. But people are excited because Nintendo's actually making a Metroid game again. Yep. But the curious thing to me is I don't know who's developing it. Like, I'm assuming I assume Retro Studios will be on it, but they haven't.
I actually saw some stuff, and I don't think they've said anything official, but I saw some people saying from sources, quote unquote, and I don't have any sources of my own for this, so take this or leave it. But I saw people saying it was not Retro.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could not be. Like, they didn't say one way or the other, so that's really confusing. And even if it is Retro, like, most of those people have left since the Metroid Prime days and are at Armature now. So, like, I don't know who's making that game. Like, it'll be interesting to see what that thing ends up looking like.
Right, and just sort of moving right along into the second part of that announcement. Sorry, Ryan, did you want to say something about Metroid Prime 4?
Oh, well, and, I guess just the Metroid franchise in general, it's kind of funny because I think even on our Japan trip, Flex and I had kind of a bit of a discussion about, like, where is Metroid? Do you think Nintendo will ever do Metroid again, or are they just kind of leaving it up to the the indie Metroidvania games that are popping out? Which I don't know if he mentioned we went to Bit Summit in Kyoto. That was pretty cool.
I did talk about that a good bit.
The other thing that Nintendo announced at the same time as Metroid Prime 4 was they announced a Metroid 2 remake for the 3DS.
Which is hilarious.
Go ahead.
Which is hilarious, given that fan Metroid 2 remake came out last year. Yeah.
Yeah, so AM2R came out recently, which is an unofficial, unlicensed Metroid 2 remake for the PC. And then that came out sometime, it was relatively late last year.
Yeah, it was like August or September.
Right, and so now we have what Nintendo is calling Samus Returns, which is a Metroid 2 remake for the 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see what that looks like.
Yeah, it's hilarious, the naming as well, because the original Metroid 2 was called The Return of Samus, so now they're just calling it Samus Returns.
Right.
Yeah, the trailer was weird. It almost, like, if I hadn't known beforehand that it was a Metroid 2, like, reimagining, I think they're calling it, or retelling or something. Like, watching the trailer, I would assumed it was like other M2, like the way it looks. Because it's got like a lot of melee grappling and throws and counters and that kind of stuff. So I'm curious how that game will play. I mean, Metroid 2 is a old and clunky game, so like, I mean, AM2R did a really good job of modernizing that. I'm not sure what their take for this Samus Returns is going to be like. It'll be interesting to see what that comes out as.
Yeah, right. And one quick question. I don't know if you could gather this from any like preview footage you saw, but from what I've heard Nintendo doing with the virtual console stuff, do you think they might have possibly grabbed anything out of AM2R and kind of copy paste onto their own game?
No, because the visual style is very different, and on top of that, like, it'd be really hard for them to turn that around this quickly. Like, AM2R has been out for less than a year, and like, the assets look very different, and like, I can't imagine them really. And AM2R was a fairly faithful. Like it put some new abilities in there, but it's a fairly faithful recreation of Metroid 2. Like this Samus Returns looks like they took way more liberties at retelling that. Which, I mean, Metroid 2 is a game worth remaking because it's old and clunky, and it's arguably the most pivotal like story chapter of the entire Metroid saga. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. They're clearly not just making a very standard 2D Metroid. They're definitely doing some different stuff with it.
And I am, I think everyone's curious to see like sort of like, what that looks like. Especially with the release of AM2R really just so recently. And I mean, I know that not everyone has played AM2R, but, with them bringing out Samus Returns, it's going to draw comparisons, right? I mean, it just will. So I think it's certainly one of those things to like, certainly to look at. But, I also think that there could be a completely different Venn diagram of the people that play Samus Returns versus the people that play AM2R. And, we'll just have to wait and see what that looks like. But I just look at the people that would go and download AM2R versus the kind of people that would walk into a GameStop or a Best Buy or a Walmart or a Target to buy Samus Returns, and just sort of see what that sort of like overlap looks like. Because I just imagine it in my head as being two completely different sets of people.
Oh, I bet the people who played AM2R is just going to be a subset of the people who play the other one, because those people are the big Metroid fans and they'll play anything with Metroid in it.
I could see that. But I think the next thing to talk about is probably going to be A Way Out, which, as far as that goes, I'm just going to have to defer on this one because I don't really have a whole lot of strong opinions, but I know it's something that's, very opinionable.
You should learn about having opinions about it, because this is a couch co-op, and guess who's co-oping it with me?
Oh, God, I didn't know I was doing that. By the way, I'm your host, Paul from Atlanta. By the way, Stephanie sits 16 feet away from me in her office. She is Stephanie from Atlanta. So tell me why I'm going to enjoy this game so much.
Well, I mean, most importantly, I'm your wife, and you're my player too. So
I've totally got those Joy-Cons.
I was at your wedding.
You were there.
We did the thing.
It's the thing, Paul.
Oh, God, how does this work? I'm looking at Wikipedia. I don't know what it means.
No, I'm so excited about this. The idea of, I don't know, like, I really enjoy online play. It lets you play with anyone, anywhere. But growing up, like, with the NES and the Sega and all these old school games, like playing that split screen has like a certain magic to me. And the fact that it's really difficult to find those split screen like options anymore. The closest that like I've gotten to that experience since has been like, the Borderland games. And I'm just really excited that it's not just that. It sounds like a really compelling story, and it's using the screen in a really weird way. Like, do you see how like you're like one player would take over more of the screen than the other?
Yeah.
And, like, mind blowing. So cool.
That's really cool looking.
Yeah. For me, I guess the interesting things about this one, and it's done by the guys who did Brothers. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of echoing what Steffi said. Like, co-op outside of some general formula type stuff, like ARPGs. Like, it's always nice to see games come out that try to do new things with co-op, or even if they just do like I don't know, even if it's not necessarily new, like it's just nice to see co-op games come out, because there's a chance that they'll land it, and that is kind of a fun and unique experience. And then also the fact, which I didn't fall in love with Brothers the way that some people did, but that game did have sort of a co-op-y feel, and I know Will Hitt, who is absent from the panel today, is a big fan of some of the storytelling beats, the way the gameplay told the story in Brothers.
What I think is really cool is like kind of how like you get an experience of playing like a game like in two different ways. Like if you're sitting there, because like even if you're playing online, like it's still going to be split screen on your TV. And there's just something really cool about seeing like one character is like looking at a wall. So on one side, like there's a wall, but on the other side, you're looking at that character. And it's just these two different angles, like perspectives of the same situation. It's almost like two games in one. Like that's so cool.
Yeah, I hope they play with the two perspectives of a situation as much as possible in that game, which it looks like that's what they're leaning into, and I think that could be really cool.
Yeah. So, again...
You sound crushed.
Is
that a hint of defeat I detect?
Oh, no.
My wife's making me play video games.
This is taking a turn.
Yeah,
I didn't know that I had to play a video game.
I'm sorry. This was a happy thing, but I guess
it's okay, guys. I'm glad to be here in this support group. You know, no. I mean,
now is Paul going to be able to find a way out from playing a way
out?
Shut it down.
All right, Mr. Flex, you can exit.
Flex 1.
Yeah,
we're done.
I want to apologize for that.
You should also just X out of this entire rest of the podcast. Steph, you too. But
definitely after that.
A way out after that. So you know, the other thing that we had pulled up here was Wolfenstein 2.
Hell yeah.
Wheelchair combat.
Game of the show.
Wheelchair combat is going to be the new centerpiece of Bethesda's games, because who can be arsed to make, you know, Elder Scrolls 6 when you can just continue to release Elder Scrolls 5 on consoles that no one wanted them on? Here is Wolfenstein 2, which I don't give a shit about, so someone else just start talking.
That's a little aggressive.
It is aggressive because I'm really mad about Elder Scrolls and Bethesda's
a different team, Paul.
You could play the online version to scratch that itch.
So here's the weird thing about Elder Scrolls is I'm not actually convinced they will make any more single-player Elder Scrolls, because that would subtract from them pushing Elder Scrolls online. Like,
So Flex, you know what? I think you are totally right, like totally 100%. And you know what? I am getting so close to being an addict that I might start playing Elder Scrolls Online. But when I see them release things like Wolfenstein 2, it just makes you realize that they really just don't give it. They don't really care.
I mean, these are all different teams as well. Like
totally different.
Bethesda's, like actual Bethesda Softworks, like they've only been making Elder Scrolls. And I mean, Elder Scrolls Online isn't even Bethesda Softworks. Like that's some weird ZeniMax thing or something.
Yeah.
Like actual Bethesda Softworks, who makes the Elder Scrolls games you like, they haven't put out a game. I don't even know what they've been doing since Fallout 4 came out.
The rumor is they're working on a new IP, but
yeah, like all of these other games are different. It's like Wolfenstein 2 is to Bethesda what Tomb Raider is to Square. It's like they picked up another studio who makes other games. So like Wolfenstein is not detracting from Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, and not to sidetrack the conversation too much, but I mean, Skyrim still seems kind of like a big thing, and I know they're doing Fallout kind of in the same mold. Like how much space has there been between some of these games? Like I know Morrowind and Oblivion probably had a fairly big space. Maybe Oblivion and Skyrim, not quite as much.
Mr. Ryan, you have walked right into my arena.
Well, maybe we should. Maybe I should make an exit.
Shit, when did I marry the Macho Man?
No.
I'm selecting the flee option.
Oh, yeah. So let me tell you about Skyrim.
Oh gosh, this is. I gotta go.
They did reveal it's coming out on Switch, so if you want to play Skyrim,
so we were talking about Wolfenstein 2, right?
Yeah, let's talk about Wolfenstein, like a game that actually looks really freaking good.
Yeah.
All right, so Flex, save us from this. Talk about Wolfenstein, please.
Yeah, that Wolfenstein reveal trailer, Wolfenstein 2 reveal trailer, was the most insane thing I saw the entire show.
It is amazing. That's
Yeah,
a
like
great
that's
reveal.
that trailer was hands down my favorite trailer. I saw the entire show.
Did you watch the Devolver thing?
Oh boy, yeah.
No, I didn't watch the thing.
Okay. So if you
are we going to talk about
Devolver,
this?
you can make that statement.
I've watched both of them. I still like the Wolfenstein real better, but the Devolver thing was ridiculous.
I mean, not in terms of liking, in terms of bizarreness.
Sure.
Devolver
Which was more bizarre, Nate, because that Wolfenstein was still pretty bizarre.
It's still pretty bizarre. I think Wolfenstein gets points because it's an actual video game.
Yeah. And it should be, like, the Wolfenstein A New Order was really fun to play, so, like, it feels like that game was successful enough that they're just, like, the reins have been taken off, and they're just allowed to do whatever crazy bananas stuff they want to do in the sequel, and they're just really running with it.
Yeah.
Like, the universe setup they have for that game, the reveal trailer they did, like, and then knowing how solid the gameplay was in the previous game, like, I really want to play that game.
Yep. Agreed.
Like, it looks like they're firing. It looks like there's potential for that thing to fire on all cylinders. Like, that thing just looks like a good time.
Yeah. I really like the Nazis have overtaken America thing, even though it seems obvious, but like that just works. That aesthetic works for me.
Yeah, it's this weird like Nazi Americana like alternate history that's just it looks weirdly amusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like
not
a Nazi like very threateningly ask for a strawberry milkshake at an American diner in an Inglourious Bastards kind of way. Like,
yeah, I really got an Inglourious Bastards tone from like that whole thing.
100%.
Yeah, it's just like every single like that trailer too. It was a long trailer. It was probably like 10 minutes or so, and like the cuts between every scene were just so like weirdly atonal. But like after enough of those, you're like, no, this is just like this game's tone is atonal. Like it's like this is just what it's going for.
Yeah,
right.
And it was it was just like one ridiculous like vignette to another. I mean, kind of in a way that Tarantino stuff kind of does, like Inglourious Bastards. Like,
right.
It's that thing just looks super entertaining.
Yeah, and you know, like just you know, I think that the word that you just used, entertaining, is probably what this game is going to be, which is a completely different word from good. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I'm not saying the game's going to be bad. I'm just saying it's probably going to be a really fun, really good game, but no one is going to be praising it for its, you know, foray into completely new and different territories.
Yeah. It might be new from like a tonal and story kind of viewpoint because it just looks so weird.
Right.
But I mean, and I wouldn't be as excited if the previous game wasn't really good, but the Wolfenstein: A New Order was a really good video game. Yeah. So like knowing that these people are making a sequel to the same people are making a sequel to a game that was already really good, but are also have a lot more freedom to do the crazy story stuff they're doing. Like that to me is really exciting. Like I hope it's good, but either way, like coming out of E3, it is definitely one of the games I'm excited to play the most coming out of E3.
Sure. All right. So I think just about, and someone jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, the last game that we wanted to talk about, gaming-wise, was Mario Cross Rabbids, or Mario Plus Rabbids, or Mario / Rabbids, depending on which website you're looking at.
I think the official title is a plus.
Yeah, it's a plus.
Is it a plus? Okay, all right. So Mario Plus Rabbids. Thank you for the correction.
Kingdom Battle.
Yeah, Mario Plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Someone that's not me, go, because whatever.
This is like the big surprise for E3 for me.
It actually gained a lot more traction than I thought it would. Like I was just kind of joking earlier, but I mean, honestly, seeing the reaction to this game, everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is terrible! Who would ever do this thing?" It's like, well, no, actually, you look at what they showed from E3, and I mean, it really does like just sort of look pretty interesting, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of been the general reaction, though. That was my. I mean, the first little bit was like, "What is this?" And then, when you see a little bit of the gameplay and kind of the aesthetics, it's like, "Hey, like I like turn-based strategy games. Like, it's sort of, I guess, I don't know, Fire Emblem-ish, or depending on which franchise you pick.
They're making Mario XCOM.
Yeah, it's totally XCOM.
Or XCOM, yeah, it's like I like that style of game. Nintendo usually makes good games. Like this could be like, I have to see, but it could be kind of fun.
Yeah, like I mean, I guess technically Ubisoft's developing it, but like, if you get like that, Ubisoft and Nintendo manpower behind it, like I could totally, and then like, all of the aesthetic stuff seems really charming. Like I could totally see them making like a good, like, tactical game. Like my one concern is I hope there's enough depth to it, but as long as they make some good solid mechanics there, like that could be a really fun thing.
Right. So and like, I don't think it's so sort of like, out of the ballpark to say it's like, this could have been a really, really, really bad game.
Oh, easily. It still could be.
Any of these games we're talking about could turn out terrible. For all we know.
But I mean, I especially think with the the Mario plus Rabbids, like just the fact that everyone was like, "Oh God, no, this could be terrible," and then it's like, well, actually, that trailer doesn't look so bad. I mean, that's kind of worth something, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Rabbids are kind of a dumb thing in general. So, like, usually when you say Rabbids, people kind of tune out. But like, once they actually started showing what that game was, like, it looks pretty cool. Like, there's potential there.
And I remember Raymond's Raven Rabbids was actually pretty fun for the Wii. So I don't know that it's anything I get excited about, but it's, those games aren't necessarily bad.
I didn't mean to imply they're bad, but I think Raving Rabbids was like a mini game collection, or maybe that was the later Rabbids games.
We kind of like WarioWare-esque games.
So it's, I guess, never really thought about those as like substantial games, so to speak. But like this looks like it could be something pretty substantial.
So guys, I have literally the greatest substantial news story of the entirety of E3.
FIFA 18.
No, it's not, because fuck that.
Sonic Forces.
Nope. The Xbox One X, a.k.a. the Xbox Scorpio. Guys, it's going to cost $499.
How many Ks do you get?
Guess what, dude? You get 6 teraflops of processing power. You get 12 gigabytes of GDDR5 memory. But here's the best part. The Xbox One S will be dropping to $249. So the Xbox One X, man, I'm just going to take a step back for a second and go, if you own a 4K TV, which we're going to grant that is not a majority of the population, but if you own a 4K TV and you're trying to decide between a PS4 Pro and an Xbox One X, the Xbox One X is probably the choice for you. But at the same time, $249 for an Xbox One S that's going to run a whole bunch of stuff at 1080p just fine. Man, that's a pretty significant price difference. I mean, the Xbox One X looks cool and all, but I'm not planning on replacing my TVs anytime soon. So someone help me out here.
And there's other factors to consider as well. Like, if you're just talking about the Xbox One X versus a PS4 Pro, there's like, what kind of games do you like to play, and like the exclusives between the platforms, and also the price difference, like you mentioned. And then there's also the caveat of like, do you have a PC? Because every game on the Xbox is also coming to PC now. So like, if you have a PC that's at least as powerful as an Xbox One X, then there might not be much reason to get one either. So like there's a number of factors in play, but if you have a 4K TV and your primary concern is to have the most quote unquote powerful console ever created, then yeah, like the Xbox One X is fitting that mold for you. At the same time, I wish Microsoft had shown a game at their conference that excited me.
So we're not gonna go. One X, like, hey guys, who on the panel owns a 4K TV? It's not me or Steph.
Not me.
Not Flex. Mr. Nate, do you have a 4K TV?
Nope.
Mr. Ryan, a citizen of Earth, do you have a 4K TV?
Alas, I do not.
All right,
4K TV on Earth?
So
it exists, or so I've heard. It's a legendary.
No one on. No one
How many does it take to carry one?
You need about 5,000 gold pieces. Spend about 2 months grinding.
Yeah, so I mean, just to be fair, the prices of the 4K TVs have been going down, and if you care about that, I'm sure you could have one this holiday season. But that's also not right now.
I think the Xbox One X is a super cool piece of hardware. Like, I think it's a really cool. I'm glad it exists. It's just a weird use case. It's like in a weirdly like specific use case situation. I feel like. Like I mean,
we represent a specific slice of gamers, I guess, with some variation, but like you said, from my perspective as a PC owner, I kind of look at Microsoft with a cocked eyebrow, and I like what they're doing with the Xbox One Anywhere or Windows Anywhere type stuff. Like, but it also, because it's killed the exclusivity, like, I guess it's appealing to a market of people who don't want to build gaming PCs, and that's totally legitimate.
Right.
It's just how many
there is a market for that. Yeah.
How many people in that bucket want to drop $500 for 6 teraflops or whatever? I mean, but hey,
plus the money for a 4K.
Forza on epic settings, so that's high end stuff. Like, we'll see how Microsoft holds up with it.
And I mean, like, certainly, you could spend any number amounts of time or hours or just like general sort of like what you might call the PC master race, right? Like, sure, you could somehow build a PC that has some pretty good specs for the price of the Xbox One X, but at the same time, like, if you're trying to reach for what's literally a 4K solution. A 4K solution for a PC is pretty expensive. I mean, it just is. A 4K solution for the Xbox One X, okay, yes, it's less expensive. Is it as complete? I mean, probably not. But at the same time, like, what are you going for here? I mean, I have a nice 32-inch monitor that's 1080p. I'm not going to replace that monitor anytime soon for the 4K aspect. It's just one of those, like, do you have a 4K TV? Do you have a certain, level of graphic fidelity that you can actually see from your couch, meaning that you have 20/20 vision? You know what I mean? Like, if you're someone who has to wear glasses or doesn't have quite 20/20 vision, are you really going to see that? I mean, I don't know that the Xbox One X is really going to do it for you
4K
if you have that problem.
Is kind of a bigger discussion in general. I mean, the market's kind of going there, but is it worth it, and how long will it take for things to really get there is kind of a bigger discussion. It's an interesting thing for Microsoft to shoot for, though. And hey, I mean, it's a marketing point, right? Buy $500, get a 4K, a 4K compatible system. It's kind of like VR as a marketing point. Like, all the gaming PCs now are like VR compatible, VR ready. Makes a nice.
It also kind of, Yeah, it kind of future-proofs them in that way too, like you're saying. So like now, as stuff is going more 4K, as you pointed out, like they're a year or two down the road when stuff's even 4K, like they will have already had this thing out there. They might be able to start making price cuts. Like in 2
years they'll have the X2. So
yeah, I guess so.
Right.
That's the other thing, is that it seems like they're going to a more iterative like console process.
XOXX.
Oh no.
Question mark. Exclamation point.
We're going to just sort of abandon ship there because that's terrifying. I guess the last thing that we were going to talk about was the other big announcement that got a whole lot of cheers from the Microsoft E3 press conference was backwards compatibility for the original Xbox. Woo!
Yay! Now you can play Halo again.
Yay! You can play Halo if you don't.
Actually, I don't know if they'll put that one on there because they have that Master Chief Collection.
Yeah. So that was the other big thing that got a whole lot of reaction at the E3 press conference. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, so I'm not gonna talk too much. But I have done a decent amount of research into what came out on the original Xbox, and because I'm someone like I did not own a PS2, I did not own an original Xbox, and I did not own a GameCube. Like I just missed that entire generation, right? And then I was trying to figure out, all right, I want to go back and I want to spend some time, spend some money in that generation. And then I looked at what came out for the original Xbox back then, and I'm like, man, not a whole lot here.
I mean, there were a lot of good games. It's just most of them were not exclusive. Like,
exactly.
Actually, what they'll probably do, I just now thought of this, they'll probably put Beyond Good and Evil on that because that was an Xbox game. Now that Beyond Good and Evil 2 is coming out. But yeah, like it's hard to think of many. So, I mean, first, I think all like bringing back old games in digital formats like is fantastic. Like I want every digital game available on every platform from the beginning of time. Like I just like that's where I want games to go. Like that's just a good move. So I'm super happy they're doing this. At the same time, like, can any of you name 3 games on the original Xbox that were not on other platforms that you want to play that do not involve the word Halo?
Nope.
That haven't gotten ported? No.
Nope.
I mean, not 3, no. I mean, maybe Mech Warrior is a game worth noting. I think like that one. I don't know.
Ironically, the only original Xbox game that I want to play that has never been released elsewhere, and then is literally the only Xbox game on my backlog that the only game they announced for the service, and that's Crimson Skies Road to Revenge or whatever the subtitle is. Yeah, that's literally the only one I want, and that's the first one they announced. I'm like, good, done it. Like, that's the only one you need.
All right, good, done, excellent.
We're done.
You can be honest. You want all the Fable games.
Nope. They didn't even put those in the Xbox Games Pass. They just put Fable 3 there.
That's kind of funny.
The good one, of course, rolls out.
Yeah. So, I mean, with the Fables, only one of them was an original game, and they did an anniversary edition on the 360. So that's the thing, is they've done anniversary and re-releases of enough of those games, like the Gears and Halos and those things that, like, well, Gears wasn't an Xbox original anyway. Right. Like, they probably won't put any of those games on the backwards compatibility because they've resold those in other ways. Maybe they'll surprise me, and they will. I don't know.
KOTOR's on Steam, so I'm good.
Yeah, like the original KOTOR was one of the best Xbox games, and that's on PC now. So I want to see Top Spin 1 and Ninja Gaiden 1.
Man, Top Spin 1 would be weird.
That would be so hilarious, though.
We are going to get ourselves on a rocket ship away from Top Spin 1.
They should put Gladius on that service. Come on.
All right.
So I think we've pretty
Freedom
much...
Fighters? Anyone?
No one. Fowler,
these are all great games.
Flex, you can stop now.
Well, Gladius and Freedom Fighters, perhaps.
Ninja Gaiden 1 is the Xbox original. That's the best Xbox game.
Probably.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong about that. But anyway, so as far as stuff from E3, there's a lot of stuff that we didn't cover. Flex, did you have anything that you wanted to touch on very quickly as far as, like E3 stuff?
I mean, there was the Beyond Good and Evil 2 trailer, which looks ridiculous and very different from Beyond Good and Evil 1, but I will be happy to see that game actually come out someday. The only other thing is just, like, in general, this E3, like, was kind of weird. It was just a bunch of games, and, like, other than, like, Mario Odyssey and Wolfenstein 2, like, I didn't get super, super excited about a ton of games. So it was just like, here's a big dump of games, and, like, I'm sure they'll come out and they'll be fun, but it's like it was a weird show of just like there weren't any bombs, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
I think it was a strong show for games, but there weren't any like crazy moments or bombs or like there wasn't one conference or platform holder that like dominated the conversation. It was just like, oh, here's a bunch of probably good games.
Yeah.
Right. So Nate, was there anything that you wanted to touch on that we haven't already talked about?
Just real quickly, I would say I'm excited for Evil Within 2. I like that first game a lot, and curious to see more about Anthem, which is BioWare's new game.
Okay. Ryan, what about you?
The thing I'm most interested in might be the XCOM 2 DLC.
That looks cool.
That sounds like they're taking a good approach with that. Other than that, I mean, there are quite a few like question mark / cautiously optimistic titles like Dauntless, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Spider-Man, Ruiner, Code Vein, Shadow of War, like games. And watching the Lawbreakers gameplay footage was pretty fun, even if I doubt that's a game I'll play.
I think that game's out really soon, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so there was a lot of interesting content, and hopefully a few of those games turn out to be at least some winners in some shape or the other.
Okay. So the only thing that I wanted to really jump into that I was a little surprised not to see was another Death Stranding trailer. And I know that, it came out shortly before E3 that there would not be a Death Stranding trailer at this E3. But the thing that surprised me the most was that, hey, you guys had your trailer at E3 2016. You have zero follow-up in 2017.
I feel like Sony's entire show could have just been like God of War, Death Stranding, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Kingdom Hearts 3, and Shenmue 3, and they could have just repeated last year's show, and these games still aren't coming out this year.
Right. And
people would have loved it.
People would have loved it.
So... And it's just kind of funny, like, am I super excited about Death Stranding? Like, no. I mean, like, I've never been a huge, fan of Kojima, and not in a bad way. Just like he's never been someone that I've really latched on to as a video game creator. But like that just seems such a significant part of the E3 2016 to have it not there at all at 2017 just made me go
Maybe they're actually working on the game.
Yeah, maybe.
That's impossible. You can't just be working on a game and not advertise it. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of everything that I thought, was just, the thing that surprised me the most from this particular E3. But E3 comes around once a year. We will see what happens next year. We're only 12 months away from the next E3. And, that's going to come around sooner than what we think.
All right, let's
and
get hyped
then
now.
Sony can show off Death Stranding and Final Fantasy VII and Kingdom Hearts 3 and all of those things yet again.
And then we'll see the PS4 Pro Plus. I can't wait to see what that looks like.
The PS4 Pro X.
The Pro X Plus, exactly. By then, I might have a 4K TV. No, I'm not because I'm cheap. But anyway, for this particular episode of ATACS, Adults Talking About Cool Stuff, episode 15, I have been your host.
Oh,
Paul.
Do we want to say what we're playing next?
No, we don't. We don't.
Okay.
Because guess what? I'm playing Final Fantasy 15. Flex, what are you playing next?
I have started Horizon, and I've been playing Unden 2.
All right, Ryan.
Oh, very nice. More World of Warcraft and cleaning up some some backlog items. Right now I'm playing an indie JRPG called Celestian Tales.
All right. So if you don't know what it is, neither do I.
Celestian Tales, the Old North. I was making sure I didn't get my Norths and Tales mixed up.
That sounds so good. I will be playing more Final Fantasy 15. Nate, what about you?
Just continuing Persona and Stellaris, and probably picking up other random stuff along the way because I'm on summer break, so I have time to do that.
All right. So I think that's probably going to wrap it up for us.
Yep.
So, yeah, I've been your host, Paul from Atlanta. Joining me today has been Mr. Flex from Raleigh, Miss Steph, also from Atlanta, Mr. Ryan, a citizen of Earth, and Mr. Nate from Wendell, North Carolina. And we will see you in about 2 weeks for ATACS episode 16. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you then.